Cut off. Corte as pontas das cenouras.
Cut the tops off the carrots. Why did you cut off all your hair?
Cortou todo o seu cabelo, cortei o galho da árvore.
I cut off the tree branch. He cut his beard off. The government has threatened to cut off our funding. School breakfasts were cut off after the funding cuts. The mayor cut off free school lunches from the budget. That taxi cut me off on the highway. The truck cut off the small car abruptly. The heavy snow has blocked many roads and cut off a number of villages.
Eles bloquearam o gado.
They cut the cattle off from the wheat field.
Bloquearam as tropas.
The enemy tanks cut off the troops from their camp.
Bloquear.
I don't want to cut my brother off from his friends.
Bloqueada da família.
She was cut off from her family while she was gone.
Todo o contrato foi
All
cortado.
contact was cut off. The floods completely cut off the town. Having a new baby can cut a young mother off from the adult world.
Eles desconectaram a eletricidade.
They cut off the electricity last week. The telephone's been cut off because we didn't pay the bill.
Desconectar aquele motor.
Would you please cut that engine off? The landlord cut off the heat.
Cortou, desconectou.
Don't cut me off like that.
Não me interrompa assim.
The speaker was cut off by the crowd.
Interrompido pela multidão.
The principal cut off the discussion when the assembly started. They cut their heirs off without a cent. Her father cut her off without a penny. My parents changed their will and cut me off after I left home.
Me deserdaram. Blackout. Vou desmaiar.
I think I'm going to black out.
Apagar.
The head injury during the car accident caused him to black out.
Ele tinha ficado
He
inconsciente.
had blacked out as his car hit the tree.
Ele desmaiou.
He blacked out and collapsed on the floor.
Apagado.
After I fell, I must have blacked out.
Apaguei completamente.
I couldn't remember a single note of the music. I blacked out completely.
Apagou.
The accused man claims he blacked out after his first drink.
Blackout.
During times of war, many civilians have to black out their windows so the enemy won't know where to bomb.
Apagaram.
Suddenly, the lights blacked out.
Apagou.
The power went dead and everything blacked out.
Tinham sido apagadas.
Half the pages in the report have been blacked out for security reasons.
Escureceu a cidade toda.
The lightning strike blacked the entire town out.
O gerente apagou.
The manager blacked out the whole building during the emergency to prevent an explosion.
Eles apagaram todas as
They have
palavras.
blacked out all the obscene words in the subtitles to make this movie suitable for youngsters.
Os semáforos
The
apagaram.
traffic lights blacked out when the storm knocked down power lines.
Adão. Add-on. Adicionar ICMS ao preço.
You have to add the VAT onto the price they give.
Incluir 15
You have to
dólares.
add $15 on for service.
Adicionou.
The referee added an 8 minutes of injury time.
Adicionou.
Irene added on a document to her email. We added 2 rooms on. They refurbished the whole place and even added on. The waiter added $5 on the bill for the extra pretzels we ordered.
Acrescentar mais um.
That tip is too low for the good service we had, so let's add on another $1.
Aumentou mais de.
Last night, the storm added on more than 20 inches to the record snowfall. We're adding another room on the back of the house. The guest list is full, so we can't add anybody else on. If there aren't enough logs in the fire, add another one on.
Size up.
I like to size up a situation before I act.
Avaliar a situação. Avaliar.
President Barrasco traveled to Greece this week to size up the situation for himself.
Analisamos nossa importação.
With the survey and planning, we size up our importation based on the need of our clients, with solutions tailored to our partners.
Analiso o outro homem para determinar.
Before a fight, I size the other man up to determine if I can beat him.
Analisou a plateia.
The comedian sized the audience up and decided not to use his new material.
Ele analisou a situação.
He sized up the situation and immediately decided what to do. The door staff sized up everyone entering the club.
Analisar a oposição.
After sizing up the opposition, Abe suggested a strategy.
Analisá-lo.
Warren looked the man over, trying to size him up.
Ela analisou seu oponente.
She sized up her opponent and decided to withdraw from the election.
Ele avaliou o local.
He sized the location up.
Analisando um ao outro.
They looked at each other, sizing each other up.
Throw up. Vomitar.
I always have to throw up after drinking too much.
Vomitar.
The prawns she ate at lunch made her throw up, and she had to go home early. Poor Wally threw his dinner up. He threw up his dinner.
Vomitou.
I feel terrible. I've been throwing up all night. The talks threw up some interesting possibilities.
Levantaram. Esse sistema levantou alguns problemas.
This system has thrown up a few problems.
Levantou muitas
The
questões.
accident threw up many questions.
Ergueram aquele prédio com pressa.
They sure threw that building up in a hurry.
Construíram um prédio.
They threw up the building in only a few weeks.
Foram construídas.
The houses were thrown up in a matter of months and were not well built.
Construiu 3 casas.
The builder threw up 3 houses in a matter of a few months.
Abandonou seu trabalho.
She threw up her job to go traveling.
Abandonou sua campanha.
After the results of the poll came in, she threw up her campaign for the Senate.
Abandonou sua
She threw up
campanha.
her campaign for mayor.
Abandonou a ideia.
He threw the idea up because there was no support for it.
Levantaram uma chuva de pedras.
The car wheels threw up a shower of stones.
Estava levantando.
The road was bumpy and the car in front was throwing up so much dust that we could hardly see where we were going.
Eles levantaram.
They threw up their hands in exasperation.
O guarda-bandeira levantou a bandeira.
The color guard threw up the flag.
Wait up. Não espere acordado por mim.
Don't wait up for me. I'll be very late tonight. I'll be home late. Don't wait up for me.
Não espere acordado por mim.
We waited up for the coming of the new year, and then we went to bed. We waited up until we heard him come in the back door.
Esperamos acordados.
I was worried and waited up until they got home safe and sound.
Safe and sound. São e salvos.
He's 23 years old. You don't need to wait up for him anymore.
Esperar acordado. Wait up.
My parents always wait up until I get home, no matter how late it is. The children waited up for their parents to come home. Are you going to wait up until midnight? Wait up, I need to talk to you.
Espere um minuto.
Tom, who was following Mary down the street, said, Wait up a minute, I need to talk to you. Hey, Sally, wait up. Don't go so fast, wait up.
Scale up and scale down. A empresa ampliou suas operações.
The company scaled up its operations to meet the growing demand. A number of companies manufacturing a line of popular small cars have simply scaled up those models.
Simplesmente ampliou.
Engineers did not completely understand what would happen if they scaled their design up.
Ampliasse seu design.
The city scaled its efforts up to reduce crime.
Estão ampliando.
They are scaling up the program because it has been so successful.
Reduzir suas demandas.
The lawyer advised them to scale down their demands. They have to scale down the project because of the costs. The bad economy forced us to scale the project down. Liz scaled down the project. We decided our travel plans were unrealistic, so we scaled them down.
Rabaf on. Contagiar. Começou a contagiar.
Johnny's enthusiasm for fishing began to rub off, and the other children wanted fishing poles too. I don't think that luck rubs off.
Pega, contagia.
We hope some of her enthusiasm rubs off.
Contagie.
His enthusiasm rubs off on everyone around him. Hopefully her enthusiasm will rub off on the rest of the team. I like to think that my love of reading will rub off on my children. I'll sit by Anne. She has been lucky all evening. Maybe it'll rub off on me. We hoped some of their good manners would rub off on our children.
Influenciariam.
I'm glad to see their good manners have rubbed off on you.
Influenciaram você. Influenciaram ele.
Some of their ideas have rubbed off on him.
Ela esfregou a pele morta.
She rubbed off the dead skin. The gold coloring had begun to rub off.
Descascar.
The mechanic grabbed a rag and rubbed off the grease.
O mecânico agarrou pano e esfregou a graxa até sair.
The mechanic grabbed a rag and rubbed off the grease.
Vai descascar a pintura do carro.
Don't scrub too hard or you'll rub the paint off the car.
Mix-up. Confundi-los.
They look so alike that it's easy to mix them up.
Estou confundindo-o.
I think I'm mixing him up with someone else.
Vai me confundir.
Please don't ask questions now. You'll mix me up.
Você confundiu o
You mixed up
palestrante.
the speaker with your question.
Sempre estava confundido.
Mrs. Albert was always mixing up the two boys, even though they didn't look very much alike.
Eu confundi o
I mixed
agendamento.
the appointment up and went for a haircut on the wrong day.
Você os misturou.
I sorted all the papers, and you've mixed them up again.
Não misture os papéis.
Don't mix up the papers on my desk. He mixed the batter up with a spoon. Please mix up the egg with the sugar. If you mix the photos up in these envelopes, I'll never find them.
Laugh off. Não dá importância ao insulto.
It's not easy to laugh off an insult.
Levar os comentários deles na brincadeira.
She tried to laugh off their remarks, but I could see she was hurt.
Não dá importância.
She criticizes his work constantly, but he doesn't get angry, he just laughs it off.
Eles apenas não deram importância.
They just laughed off the rumors that they are getting married.
Levou o incidente na brincadeira.
Although his feelings were hurt, he just laughed the incident off, as if nothing had happened. He laughed off the incident.
Ele não deu importância.
He laughed off the sprained finger, but it obviously affected his golf game.
Não levou a sério.
I tried to tell her she looked beautiful, but she just laughed it off.
Ela desprezou e ignorou a conclusão do crítico.
She laughed off the critic's conclusion that the show was a flop.
Mas eu o desprezei e ignorei.
The landlord wanted more money, but I laughed him off.
John desprezou a sugestão.
John laughed off the suggestion that he change his behavior.
Keep away. Manter distância.
I've told him to keep away, but he won't listen. The dog is in a bad mood, so you should keep away. You should keep away from fried foods. You should keep away from fallen electrical wires after storms so that you don't get electrocuted. The doctor said I should keep away from alcohol. You can't keep the kids away from the computer. Keep the candy away. I'm on a diet. I will try to keep the smokers away from you. Keep your cat away from my dog. Try to keep the dog away from the roast. Medicines should always be kept away from children.
Payback. Você deve pagar o John.
You must pay John back. You have owed him money for a long time. You have to pay back everyone you owe money to. You owe me money. When are you going to pay me back? I'll be able to pay you back next week. I don't think we can afford to pay the full amount back now. She'll pay us the rest back when she gets her wages.
Como se vingar deles pelo problema?
She knew how to pay them back for the trouble they had caused.
Se vingar de todos.
He intends to pay back everyone who has wronged him.
Me vingar dele.
How can I pay him back for that dirty trick he played on me?
Eu vou me vingar.
I will pay her back for what she said about me.
Fred vai se vingar do Mike.
Fred eventually will pay Mike back.
Ela se vingou dele fazendo.
After he embarrassed her, she paid him back by playing a joke on him.
Turn off. Agora é seguro desligar seu computador.
It is now safe to turn off your computer.
Desliga automaticamente.
All the lights turn off automatically.
Desliga a torneira.
Go and turn the tap off before the bath overflows.
Você pode desligar a televisão.
Will you turn the television off, please?
Desligou as fontes locais de energia.
The emergency crew has turned off local power and gas supplies.
Pegar a rodovia na caixa.
You are supposed to turn off the highway at the yellow mailbox.
Pegue a rodovia.
Turn off the highway at the first exit after the city.
Pegue a próxima saída.
Turn off at the next exit.
Poderia afastar muito dos eleitores.
This sort of talk could turn a lot of voters off.
Nos repeliu completamente.
That vulgar comedian turned us off completely.
Afastou o júri.
Her opening statement completely turned off the jury.
Desanimou a classe.
The boring lecture turned off the class.
O filme entediou o público.
The movie turned the audience off. The boring professor turned me off to the subject.
Me desanimaram.
Her offensive remarks really turned me off.
Turn on. Ligam.
At what time do the streetlights turn on?
Liga a torneira.
Turn on the outside tap, will you? The lights turned on right at dusk.
Ligaram.
Is your computer turned on? The trial turned on the medical evidence presented by the defense.
O enredo todo depende da identidade falsa.
The entire plot turns on mistaken identity. The campaign turns on attracting swing voters.
Eleitores indecisos.
He'll have to turn on all his charm to persuade her.
Contar com todo o seu charme. Atacou ela.
Dan suddenly turned on her and yelled at her to be quiet.
Ele me atacou e me mordeu.
I thought the strange dog was friendly, but suddenly it turned on me and bit me.
Perigo deles te atacaram.
Bob knows a lot about lions, and he says that no matter how well they are trained, there is always the danger that they'll turn on you.
Te atacarem. O tesoureiro atacou todo o conselho de
The
diretores.
treasurer turned on the entire board of directors.
Me atacou.
He suddenly turned on me and accused me of not supporting him when he needed it.
Ele é muito legal, mas ele apenas não me excita.
He's very nice, but he just doesn't turn me on. He blushed when she asked him what turned him on.
O que o excitava. Ele realmente me excita.
He really turns me on.
Ele me anima. Ele se
He
anima.
turns on when he sees the mountains.
Anne ficará interessada.
Anne will turn on if she hears this song.
Me anima.
Fast music with a good beat turns me on.
Interessam.
That stuff doesn't turn on anyone.
Stand by. Espere.
Your transatlantic telephone call is almost ready. Please stand by.
Espere.
A boat will be standing by in case of emergency.
Estará de prontidão. Ficou de prontidão.
During the fireworks display, the fire department truck stood by in case something went up in flames.
Tiveram que esperar.
It was such a terrible fire that the firefighters had to stand by and let the fire burn itself out.
Foi um incêndio tão terrível que os bombeiros tiveram que esperar e deixar que o fogo apagasse por si só.
It was such a terrible fire that the firefighters had to stand by and let the fire burn itself out.
Esperar.
We can't just stand by and watch her die.
Esperar.
We can't stand by while millions of people starve.
Eu vou te apoiar, custe o que custar.
Don't worry, I'll stand by you no matter what.
Ficar do lado do meu irmão.
I feel as though I have to stand by my brother even if he goes to jail.
Nos apoiar.
We knew they would stand by us no matter what we'd done.
Apoie seu marido.
I think people admire the fact that she stands by her husband. At a news conference, she stood by his criticism of the government.
Fico do lado da Judy.
Jeff, please stand by Judy. I want to take your picture. Can I stand by the window and watch the birds?
Fica ao lado da irmã, John.
Stand by your sister's side, John.
Take on. Contratando nenhum novo funcionário no momento.
We're not taking on any new staff at the moment.
Contratam.
The farms take on more workers during the harvest.
Contratar você como editor assistente.
I think we could take you on as an assistant editor, but it doesn't pay very well.
Nós o contratamos.
We took him on as a trainee, but soon promoted him to supervisor.
A competição assume mais importância.
The competition takes on more importance now that the title is at stake.
Está adotando uma nova aparência.
Our website is taking on a new look.
A guerra assumiu um sentido
The war
diferente.
took on a different meaning for everyone involved.
Tem adotado a aparência.
Over the years, he has taken on the look of a banker.
Eu não posso aceitar mais nenhum.
I can't take on any more work at the moment.
Assume mais responsabilidades.
After her husband's death, she had to take on extra responsibilities.
Para aceitar o projeto,
Only a few construction companies are big enough to take the project on.
enfrentam o Chile.
Later today, the World Cup champions take on Chile.
Enfrentar com um lutador como aquele
When you take a fighter like that on, you could end up in big trouble.
enfrenta o Barcelona.
This evening, Manchester United takes on Barcelona.
Draw on. Lança a mão, recorre às suas próprias experiências de vida.
As an actor, you often draw on your own life experiences.
Lança a mão, recorre.
Your body draws on its reserves of fat during the times when you are fasting.
Lançar mão, a minha poupança.
If I run out of cash, I'll have to draw on my savings account.
Henrietta valeu-se de sua experiência
Henrietta drew on her experience as a hockey captain when asked to lead the project.
Eu lancei mão do meu treinamento.
I drew on my old scout training to make that fire.
Ela vestiu suas luvas,
She drew on her gloves.
vestiu suas calças.
He quickly drew on his trousers and ran out the door.
Vestirei minhas meias.
I will draw on my socks, don't worry.
Enquanto a noite se aproxima,
As evening draws on, we'll make our way back to the house.
a noite se aproxima.
The night draws on, so we should hurry home.
Enquanto o inverno se aproxima,
As winter draws on, the temperature drops.
a tempestade, a noite se aproximava.
The storm gradually became stronger as the night drew on.
Ele tragou seu cigarro e tossiu.
He drew on his cigarette and coughed.
Tragou cigarro
Fitz
gratamente.
drew thankfully on a cigar.
Tragava seu cigarro.
She shook her head as she drew on her cigarette.
Burnout. Esgotam. Pais afoitos esgotam seus filhos esportivos.
Pushy parents burn out their sporty kids.
Me esgota.
This work burns me out so much that by the end of the day, I can't even decide what I want to eat for dinner.
Eu fiquei exausto.
I burned myself out as a competitive swimmer. I just cannot stand to practice anymore.
Tom se esgotou naquele trabalho chato.
Tom burned himself out in that boring job.
Vai ficar exausta.
Most of these people will burn out within 10 years and be replaced by younger employees who don't mind working nights, weekends, and holidays.
Finalmente o fogo se apagou.
The fire finally burned out.
O fogo finalmente apagou.
The fire finally burned out.
A vela apagou.
The candle burned out in a wisp of smoke.
A fogueira apagou.
The bonfire burned out, and we threw sand on the embers.
O hotel foi completamente
The
queimado.
hotel was completely burnt out.
O mecânico queimou.
The mechanic burned out all of the carbon deposits.
Ajudou a queimar o carro da mulher.
The businessman helped burn out the female's car.
A prefeitura foi queimada.
City Hall was burned out in the attack. The new motor burned out because they used the wrong type of oil.
O motor queimou.
This vacuum cleaner needs to be fixed. I think the motor burned out.
A lâmpada queimou.
The light bulb burned out.
Queimou o motor.
OMG, he burned out the motor.
Você vai queimar o motor.
Turn it off, you're going to burn the motor out.
Set out. Começam a jornada novamente.
After a 3-day rest, the travelers set out again.
Partiram para o Polo Sul.
The explorers set out for the South Pole yesterday morning.
Nós começamos nossa
We
viagem.
set out on our trip exactly as planned.
Nós partimos ao meio-dia.
We set out at noon.
As figuras são mostradas no relatório anual.
The figures are set out in the council's annual report.
Exibiu.
The vendor set out a large display of fruits and vegetables.
Exibiu.
The Japanese restaurant set out samples of all the different kinds of sushi.
Dispõe.
The contract sets out all the details of the agreement.
Organizou, exibiu.
In her speech, she set out a plan for her second term in office.
Ela arrumou suas ideias.
He set his ideas out in a detailed report.
Eles plantaram sementes.
They set out seeds last year, and now the field is full of flowers.
Nós devemos plantar alguns bulbos de tulipa neste
We
outono.
should set some tulip bulbs out this fall.
Era hora de plantar mudas.
It was time to set out the seedlings.
Look back. Lembra dos dias da escola.
Most people look back on their school days with fondness. When I look back on Frank, I do remember his strange manner. When I look back, I am amazed at all I have accomplished.
Olhe para trás.
We raised 3 kids and worked full time. Sometimes I look back and wonder how we did it.
Tem lembranças.
Old people often look back on over their lives.
Nunca olhe para trás.
Keep your sight on your goal and never look back.
Quando eu me lembro,
When I look back on all the times we shared, I wish for those days again.
lembrar de
No other country in Europe can look back on such a long tradition of neutrality.
lembrarem do passado.
On special days or occasions, it is often the case that people look back at the past.
Lembrava dos primeiros anos.
When Mom looked back on the early days of their marriage, she wondered how they managed with so little money.
Lembraram dos bons tempos.
At the high school reunion, everyone looked back at the good times they had shared.
Hang out with. Ele frequenta o pub.
He hangs out in the pub, the Monarch. He's there most nights.
Frequentam.
The police know where the thieves hang out.
Para frequentar.
The pub is a great place to hang out, and it has a beautiful atmosphere.
Frequentar a praça local.
Calixto is 19 and likes to play football and hang out in the local plaza.
Frequentava.
She knew all the clubs where he usually hung out.
Passar tempo com as pessoas que já conhece.
If you only hang out with people you already know, you'll miss out on one of the greatest things about high school.
Passar tempo com os meus amigos.
I don't have much free time now and almost never get to just hang out with my friends.
Eu gosto de passar tempo com meus amigos.
I like to hang out with my friends as much as possible.
Passar tempo com meus amigos.
Matt is a quiet boy who likes to hang out with friends and play football. You seem interested in me and the people I hang out with.
Go ahead. Vai em frente.
Go ahead, he insisted. I won't interrupt again. Go ahead and eat before everything gets cold. As I said, the process must be allowed to go ahead.
Prosseguir. Vai em frente.
If you wish to go to war with your American friends, go ahead, but go without us. Can I borrow your book? Sure, go ahead. You go ahead, and we'll wait here for Sally. We must go ahead with our discussion. The club will be going ahead with its plan for a new stadium in the summer.
A reunião vai continuar.
The meeting will go ahead.
Prosseguir.
The construction of the bypass went ahead despite the protests from environmentalists.
Eu fui em frente.
I went ahead and bought that car I liked.
Get around. Millie ainda viaja bem.
At the age of 85, Millie still gets around quite well.
Viaja pouco.
I certainly get around a bit on my job because this year I've had to go to Korea, Australia, Turkey, and South Africa.
Difícil viajar sem carro.
It is hard to get around without a car.
Não demorou muito para as notícias da demissão circularem.
It didn't take long for news of his resignation to get around.
A notícia se espalhou.
When word got around that she was baking cookies, all the children appeared at her door.
Se espalhou que
I don't know how the story got around that she was leaving her job.
ela conseguiu evitar as regras.
He managed to get around the rules.
Evitar as regras fiscais.
There are ways of getting around the tax rules.
Não pode evitar o fato de que fumar mata.
You can't get around the fact that smoking kills.
Você não pode contornar o problema.
You can't get around the problem by pretending it doesn't exist.
Você não consegue me convencer.
You can't get around me with flattery and sweet words. You're not getting a new bike for Christmas, and that's the end to it. He's strict, but you can usually get around him with humor.
Mas eu consegui convencê-la.
She didn't want to accept my application because it was late, but I managed to get around her.
Fool around. Brincar na classe.
Mark admits he used to fool around in class.
Lugar.
It was
Brincar.
a serious academic school, not a place to fool around. The
Brincar.
coach was in no mood to fool around, and the team knew it.
Pare de brincar.
Stop fooling around and clean your room as I told you.
Brincando.
I wish you didn't spend so much time fooling around.
Brincando.
Instead of studying, he spends all his spare time fooling around. The children are fooling around in the yard.
Se pegando no porão.
He caught the two teenagers fooling around in the basement.
Ele tem ficado com outra mulher.
He has been fooling around with another woman.
Está ficando com alguém do escritório.
I think he's fooling around with someone from the office.
Get up. Acorda antes.
He never gets up before 9.
Eu acordo.
I get up at 7 a.m. every day. Will you get me up at 6 tomorrow? She got up and opened the door. We must get up some sort of celebration for him when he leaves.
Organizar.
Local people got up a petition against the factory closure. She got up a petition against rezoning.
Organizaram.
They got up a list of 200 people who were opposed to the local council's plan. The children were got up in fairy costumes. She got herself up as Queen Victoria.
Se fantasiou. Ela se vestiu com uma roupa bizarra.
She got herself up in a bizarre outfit.
Come forward. Dê passo à frente.
The preacher said, "Come forward now if you feel the spirit."
Dê passo à frente.
Come forward and stand before the whole class. The teacher asked the 3 boys to come forward and receive their award.
Voluntariados.
The National Blood Service is anxious for more donors to come forward.
Colocar-se à disposição.
The investigators pleaded for anyone with information about the crime to come forward.
A se voluntariar.
The boss asked for more help, but no one was inclined to come forward.
Coloquei à disposição.
When they requested volunteers, I came forward since I had nothing better to do.
Se colocaram à disposição.
After the fire, several families came forward with some money for the victims.
Se colocar à disposição.
The police hope that some witness to the shooting will come forward with information.
Apresentou uma nova ideia.
Colleen came forward with a new idea. I hope you each can come forward with something useful.
Você não se apresentou mais cedo. Por quê?
Why did you not come forward earlier in the trial?
Me apresentar durante o julgamento.
I was afraid to come forward during the trial.
Come along. Que aparecesse.
He decided to give the money to the first stranger who came along.
Aparecer.
He told me to work hard and take every opportunity that comes along. Don't take the first offer that comes along.
Aparecerá logo.
I'm hoping another offer will come along soon.
Decidiu aparecer depois.
Ray had some work to finish and decided to come along later.
Você se importa se eu for junto?
I've never seen a baseball game. Do you mind if I come along?
Por favor, me acompanhe até a loja.
Please come along with me to the store.
Eu vou junto.
If you go swimming, I'll come along.
O trabalho de construção estava melhorando bem.
The building work was coming along nicely.
Progredindo com seu nado.
How's Kathleen coming along with her swimming?
Melhorando.
Thomas is more relaxed and his skills are coming along.
Progredindo muito bem.
Our projects are coming along very well.
Está progredindo?
How is your remodeling coming along?
Go long. Chama os alunos.
The teacher always calls on the students in the back row to answer questions.
Eu agora chamo.
I now call on the other party to give their account of what happened.
Pediu para o governador.
The opposition has called on the governor to resign.
Pediu aos Estados Unidos.
The human rights group has called on the U.S. to end the death penalty.
Recorreu aos países.
The president called on the wealthy countries for financial aid after the floods destroyed much of the country's agriculture.
Recorrendo a você.
We are calling on you to run for president.
Recorreu a todas as suas.
She called on all her reserves of courage to face the ordeal ahead of her.
Eu recorri a todas
I
as
called on
minhas.
all my strength to lift the rock that had fallen on my foot.
Recorri.
This project calls on all the creative skills you can gather together. It calls on everything you've got.
Eu visitei meus vizinhos.
I called on my neighbors last night and returned a book I had borrowed.
Nós pedimos
We
visitar.
could call on my parents if we have time.
Visitar agricultores.
Part of my job was to go out and call on farmers to see how they were doing.
Me visitaram pela manhã.
The fireman said he'd call on me in the morning.
Nós o desafiamos.
When the magician boasted that he could juggle blindfolded, we called him on it, and he was forced to admit he was lying.
Ele desafiou o palestrante em várias.
He called the speaker on several misstatements of fact.
Você está me desafiando?
Are you calling me on?
Come down. Recusou a descer.
He was sitting in a tree and refused to come down.
Desça, tá me ouvindo?
Come down from there this instant. Come down, do you hear?
A taxa de juros baixaram.
Interest rates have come down significantly in the last 3 years.
Baixaram.
House prices have come down recently.
Teve que baixar.
The cost of both building and operating ships has had to come down.
Baixou sua posição social, perderam prestígio.
After the market crashed, the Tates really came down in the world.
Desceu sua posição social.
He has really come down in the world.
Desceu sua posição
He has come
original.
down from his original position.
Perdeu bastante status.
Now he is just a clerk. He has come down quite a bit.
Começou a cair.
In the afternoon, the rain really started to come down.
O avião caiu em um campo.
The plane came down in a field, killing both the pilot and his passenger.
A neve está caindo forte.
The snow is coming down hard.
Meus pais estão vindo para o
My
fim de
parents are
semana.
coming down for the weekend.
Convidá-los para virem e olhar mais
So I'd
perto.
love to talk to you all and invite you to come down and take a closer look.
Eu fui para me registrar mais ou menos
I
às
came down to
8h30.
sign in about 8:30 p.m., only to find that the session was over.
Foi para isso que eu tive que vir aqui.
Is this why I had to come down here and miss my cartoons?
A pintura nos foi passada,
This painting has come down to us from our great-grandparents.
foram passadas através das gerações,
These stories have come down through the generations.
eram passadas pelos
The
ancestrais.
family loved traditions that came down from their ancestors.
Me foi passada pela minha bisavó.
All my silverware came down to me from my great-grandmother. The antique furniture came down through my mother's family.
Voltou a si e sentiu melhor.
He felt giddy and sick from the overdose, but he eventually came down and felt better.
Voltou a si.
She came down slow from her addiction, which was good. It was hard to get her to come down.
Ei, cara, o que está acontecendo rolando?
Hey man, what's coming down?
Acontece.
When something like this comes down, I have to stop and think things over.
O que vai acontecer rolar hoje à noite?
What's coming down tonight?
Come on. Progredindo, avançando.
How's the building work coming on? She's coming on fine with her music.
Progredindo, avançando.
His French has really come on since last year.
Progrediu.
The room was dark when the lights suddenly came up.
Acenderam. Acender,
I
ligar.
saw a light come on in an upstairs window.
O aquecimento liga
The central heating comes on automatically an hour before I have to get up.
quando as notícias foram transmitidas.
We all had to be quiet when the news came on.
Não é transmitido até 7h30.
My son's favorite show doesn't come on until 7:30.
É transmitido.
What time does the talk show come on?
Pode surgir para você sem aviso.
Even if you feel stimulated rather than sleepy, sleepiness may come on you without warning.
Gripe surgindo.
I've got a bit of a headache. I hope it doesn't mean I've got a flu coming on.
Dor de cabeça surgindo.
I can feel another headache coming on.
Quando ele entrou em cena,
When he came on, the audience finally began to show some interest.
Ela entra em cena pela direita.
After the next cue, she comes on from the right.
É para você entrar em cena.
You are to come on when you hear your cue. Only products that meet our standards will come on to the internal market.
Entrar no barco.
Even if the council were to come on board, a whole host of loopholes would still exist.
Mesmo que fosse para o conselho entrar no barco, uma série de brechas ainda existiria.
Even if the council were to come on board, a whole host of loopholes would still exist.
Entrarão no mercado.
These new vehicles will come on the market over a long period of time.
Vamos!
Come on, we're going to be late.
Qual é?
Come on, it's not the end of the world.
Ah, para!
Oh, come on, only a fool would believe a story like that.
Por favor!
Come on, how dumb do you think I am?
Ah, vai!
Come on, let me go to the picnic.
Por favor!
Come on, whined Jimmy. I want some more.
Bring in. Incluir novo talento.
This is an opportunity to bring in new talent.
Incluir especialista nisso.
I'm going to have to bring a specialist in on this.
Inclua diversos
Please bring
especialistas.
in several specialists to advise on this case.
Incluir especialista.
Let's bring an expert in before we go any further. And here I'd like to bring in James Walker to hear his comments.
Será incluído para dar uma olhada.
An independent investigator will be brought in to look at the allegations.
É proibido trazer ou consumir drogas.
It is prohibited to bring in or consume drugs while in detention.
Se eu trouxer,
If you bring in your own medication, you must tell your doctor and the nurses what you are taking.
começar a trazer alguns suprimentos.
The Red Cross and UNICEF started to bring in some supplies, books, pencils, etc.
Os estudantes estrangeiros trazem.
Overseas students bring in more than 30 million pounds a year in tuition fees.
Trouxe.
Their wise investments have brought in millions of dollars.
Meu segundo emprego traz alguns dólares extras.
My second job brings a few extra dollars in. The job brings in $2,000 a month.
Atraiu milhares de turistas.
The new campaign has brought in thousands of tourists to the city.
Deve atrair.
The movie should bring in big audiences.
O governo introduziria a legislação necessária.
She said the government would bring in the necessary legislation to deal with the problem.
Introduzir uma legislação.
It is just nonsense to actually bring in legislation like this at this stage.
Introduzir uma lei contra o uso de bandeiras.
But it would be better to bring in legislation against the use of flags.
O júri deu o veredito de não culpado.
There were gasps when the jury brought in a verdict of not guilty.
Houve inquietude, gaspes. O júri deu o seu veredito em 1 hora.
The jury brought in their verdict within the hour.
Antes de o anunciarem.
Make sure you are all comfortable with the verdict before you bring it in.
Get out. Saísse.
The teacher screamed at him to get out.
Saia da minha casa.
Get out of my house. We got out of the taxi at the station.
Nós não saímos muito.
We don't get out much, as we have a young baby.
Nosso cenário escapou.
Our canary got out.
Canário. Nós escapamos exatamente.
We got out just as the building was about to burst into flames.
Ninguém sabe como o leão escapou.
No one knows how the lion got out.
Mas eu não consegui tirar a mancha.
I washed the shirt twice, but I couldn't get the stain out.
Tirou uma lasca de vidro do dedo.
Mike got a splinter of glass out of Jenny's toe.
Podiam tirar os conservadores.
They were confident they could get the conservatives out.
As novidades vazaram.
There was a huge public outcry when the news got out.
Vazou que você estava indo embora.
I have no idea how it got out that you were leaving.
O segredo deles vazou.
Their secret got out.
Publicar o dicionário a tempo.
There was the usual rush to get the dictionary out on time.
Publicar o relatório.
We have to get the report out by the end of the month.
Para publicar livro,
Authors often need years to get a book out onto the shelves.
eu consegui falar umas palavras,
I managed to get out a few words.
mas não consegui falar, se expressar.
He tried to protest, but couldn't get the words out.
Para não pode ser expressar.
He was so upset he couldn't get the words out.
Get along with.
Richard and his sister don't get along.
Não se dão bem, né?
Why don't you two get along? You're always arguing. I get along well with most of my colleagues.
Ele se dá bem.
She gets along with the in-laws.
Eu não me dou bem.
I don't get along with my sister. We have nothing in common.
Você está progredindo com o projeto?
Are you getting along with the project?
Progredindo com a sua lição de casa?
How are you getting along with your schoolwork?
Progredindo?
How's the homework getting along?
Eu progredi muito.
I got along much better in my new job.
É melhor você estar saindo agora.
You'd better be getting along now.
O dono da loja disse às crianças para saírem.
The store owner told the children to get along.
Está tarde, nós temos que estar saindo.
It's late. We must be getting along.
Bring on. Para causar isso,
People who are sick often wonder what they did to bring this on.
pode causar uma dor de cabeça,
Eating ice cream too fast can bring on a headache.
causar vergonha e desgraça para a família.
He accused her of bringing shame and disgrace on the family.
O que causou esse evento?
What brought this event on?
O que causou essa catástrofe?
What brought on this catastrophe?
Causado por medo.
She nearly died of a heart attack brought on by fear.
Causou isso a si mesmo.
You brought it on yourself. Don't complain. Max brought this problem on all of us. His cold brought on an asthma attack.
Causaram receios.
The attacks brought on fears that the political process might be overtaken by violence.
Eu não sei o que causou isso.
I don't know what's brought this on. He's usually so friendly.
Come across. Eu me deparei com uma palavra que nunca tinha visto antes.
I came across a word I'd never seen before.
John se deparou com um livro.
John came across a book he had been looking for.
Eu me deparei com um artigo.
I was looking through a magazine and came across an interesting article on American artists.
Eu me deparei.
I came across my old college roommate in town today.
Você já se deparou com uma pessoa tão horrível em toda a sua vida?
Have you ever come across such a horrible person in all your life?
Ela passa a impressão de muito
She comes
autoconfiante.
across as very self-confident. I hope I didn't come across as rude.
Você passa uma impressão na entrevista.
A lot depends on how well you come across in the interview.
Ele concordou com o nosso ponto de vista.
He came across to our point of view.
Concordar.
How can we get him to come across?
Ah, ela vai concordar.
Oh, she'll come across. Just you wait. She'll do what we want.
Ele concorde?
Will a sign-on bonus get him to come across?
Give out. Distribuir, dar conselhos financeiros aos estudantes.
The office gives out financial advice to students.
Distribuir comida e cobertores.
The homeless shelter gave out food and blankets. The teacher gave the test papers out.
Distribuir as tarefas de casa.
The teacher gave the homework assignment out.
Anuncia novidades.
When will you give the news out?
Anunciou.
The president gave out the news that the hostages had been released.
Anunciou.
The professor gave out the bad news.
Foram anunciadas.
Details of the accident were given out on the 9 o'clock news.
Parou de funcionar sob pressão.
His heart finally gave out under the strain.
Minha bicicleta velha finalmente parou de funcionar.
My old bicycle finally gave out.
Parou de funcionar
The
semana
dishwasher
passada.
finally gave out last week.
A água deles acabou 2 dias atrás.
Their water gave out 2 days ago.
Acabaram.
The paper napkins gave out, and we had to use paper towels.
Os ovos acabaram.
The eggs gave out, and we had to eat cereal for breakfast for the rest of the camping trip.
Take back. Eu devolvi o livro para a biblioteca.
I took the book back to the library.
Eu posso devolvê-lo.
If you don't like the scarf, I can take it back.
Devolvê-la.
The toaster I bought didn't work, so I had to take it back.
Aceitou de volta.
He had an affair, but then he took her back.
Você o aceitaria de volta?
Why on earth would you take him back when he's been such a rat?
Por que cargas d'água você o aceitaria de volta quando ele vem sendo um cachorro?
Why on earth would you take him back when he's been such a rat? Mary took back her husband after he stopped drinking. I had to take back my jacket from your closet because I need to wear it. I took my book back because I forgot that I had written some notes in the margins.
A loja não receberá de volta a roupa.
The store won't take back clothing if it has been worn.
Eu retiro isso.
I didn't mean what I said. I take it back.
Eu não quis dizer o que eu disse. Eu retiro isso.
I didn't mean what I said. I take it back.
Eu exijo que você retire isso.
What a terrible thing to say. I demand that you take it back.
Eu retiro todas as coisas legais que eu disse sobre você.
After your bad behavior, I take back all the nice things I said about you.
Eu gostaria de poder retirar minha performance vergonhosa.
I wish I could take back my embarrassing performance.
Eu retiro tudo o que eu disse.
I said you weren't much of a cook, but after that dinner, I take it all back.
Me lembra a minha infância.
This song always takes me back to my childhood.
Me leva de volta.
That old song sure takes me back.
Me leva de volta à nossa primeira viagem à praia.
The smell of the ocean takes me back to our first trip to the beach.
Bring back. Para ocasionar melhorias substanciais em habitação.
Major spending is required to bring about substantial improvements in housing.
Foram ocasionadas para nova tecnologia.
Social changes that have been brought about by new technology.
Ocasionou uma grande mudança.
The invention of the internal combustion engine brought about a huge shift in people's mobility.
Ocasionar essas mudanças.
I'm determined to do what I can to bring about these changes.
Ah, sim, ela pode fazer o que ela quiser.
Oh yes, she can bring about anything she wants.
De fazer algumas mudanças.
The new manager decided it was time to bring some changes about.
Feitas, ocasionadas pelo governo.
The changes to the law were brought about by the government, because so many people were ignoring the old one.
Ocasionam uma perspectiva reflexiva.
Everybody has an opinion, and it's good. It's good because opinions bring about thoughtful perspective.
Para ocasionar mudanças,
To bring about changes, students will have to speak up.
speak up, manifestar-se. Go out. Vamos sair.
Let's go out and look at the stars.
Sairem
The
hoje.
seas are too rough for the ships to go out today. Last year's champion went out in the second round.
Então saí para comprar.
We ran out of rice, so I went out for some more.
Nossa Rosa acabou. A Inglaterra saiu da Copa.
England went out of the World Cup amid great controversy.
Vamos sair para jantar hoje à noite.
Instead of cooking, let's go out for dinner tonight.
Tempo para sair.
Those guys don't have much time to go out.
Nós saímos muito.
We go out a lot during the holiday season.
Sair com os amigos.
I wanted the evenings free for going out with friends. The Smiths went out with the Franklins to a movie. How long have Rob and Sue been going out? Greg used to go out with Katie. They started going out a couple of months ago, and now they are inseparable. She wished she had been able to go out to South Africa with Nicola. We went out to the country to visit the dairy farm. This ferry goes out to the islands.
Viaja. Se extinguindo durante a noite.
The fire must have gone out during the night.
A vela se apagou.
The candle went out and left us in darkness. All the lights went out. The package went out last week.
Foi enviado. Foram enviados.
The invitations went out 2 weeks before the party.
A notícia se espalhou.
The word went out that the couple was getting a divorce.
Saiu de moda.
That hairstyle went out about 10 years ago.
Estão saindo de moda.
Big collars are going out of fashion.
Saíram de moda.
High boots went out last year.
Get back. Está tarde. Eu devo voltar.
It's late. I ought to get back.
Papai sempre voltava para casa.
Dad always got back home in time for tea.
A que horas você vai voltar?
What time will you get back?
Eu voltarei.
I'll get back to reading this book when my chores are done.
Como recuperá-la?
She left her briefcase on the train and she doesn't know how to get it back. I shouldn't have let the dog run away with the ball. Now we'll never get it back.
Eu nunca irei recuperar meus livros.
I'll never get back the books.
Nunca vai recuperá-lo.
Don't lend him any money. You'll never get it back.
Coisas voltarem a ser como eram.
It won't take long for us to get things back the way they were.
Eu acordei cedo e não pude voltar a dormir.
I woke up early and couldn't get back to sleep.
Voltar a controlar a sua vida.
She needs to get back in control of her life.
O baterista voltou com a banda de
The
jazz.
drummer got back with the jazz band after a short career as a violinist.
Pat voltou com Chris.
A few days after their argument, Pat got back together with Chris.
Reatamos a semana
We
passada.
split up a few months ago, but got back together last week.
Mas eu me vingarei de você amanhã.
You may have won this fight, but I'll get you back tomorrow.
Mas ele se vingou dela, ignorando-a.
She wrote a critical article about him, but he got back at her by ignoring it completely.
Mas eu me vingarei dele.
He was rude and embarrassed me, but I'll get him back.
Eu me vingarei dela.
I'll get back at her for landing me in trouble.
Come back. Por favor, volte para mim. Estou solitário.
Please come back to me. I'm lonely.
Volte para o seu lar.
Come back to your home. We decided to come back to Scotland for another holiday. The pain has never come back since.
Nunca mais voltou. Voltando afinal.
The good weather seemed to be coming back at last.
Tempos irão voltar.
When will the good old days come back?
Voltei para casa mais cedo.
I left work and came back home early.
Voltou mais popular do que
After
nunca.
years of living in obscurity, the rock singer came back more popular than ever.
Voltou para mim.
Everything you said suddenly came back to me.
Voltaram para mim.
All the old memories came back to me and made me feel very sad.
Voltando para mim agora.
What happened last night is coming back to me now.
Take up. Eu comecei a fumar quando eu estava na escola.
I took up smoking when I was at school.
Ela começou engenharia.
He took up engineering after college.
Chris começou a correr.
Chris has taken up jogging.
Eu comecei o yoga.
I took yoga up because it relaxes me.
Ele começou química.
He took chemistry up after realizing he didn't like physics.
A nova cirurgiã vai assumir.
The new surgeon will take up her post in May.
Assumir.
He later took up a friendly attitude, but he was still unhappy.
Soldados assumiram.
The soldiers took up positions along the river.
Assumida, foi assumida.
The statistical technique developed by physicists was taken up by economists.
Assumir a causa dos
Mrs.
direitos.
Pankhurst took up the cause of women's rights.
Esses arquivos tomam muito espaço.
These files take up a lot of disk space.
Eu tentarei não tomar muito do seu tempo.
I'll try not to take up too much of your time.
A lição de casa consumiu.
Homework took up most of the kids' afternoons.
Minha mala toma muito
My
espaço.
suitcase takes up too much space.
Eu aceitei a oferta para
I
jantar.
took up the offer to go out to dinner. He took her challenge up and they agreed to meet that night to play darts.
Escolas estão aceitando a oferta.
Schools are taking up the offer of cut-price computers. One of our greatest athletes has taken up a new challenge.
Aceitou um novo desafio. Vamos lidar com os candidatos.
Let's take up the applicants in our next meeting.
Vamos lidar com cada problema.
Let's take up each problem one at a time.
Nós iremos lidar com cada questão.
We'll take each issue up separately. She fell silent, and her brother took up the story.
O irmão retomou a história. O narrador retomou a história.
The narrator took up the story at the point where she had stopped for a break.
Eu vou retomar a história de onde você deixou.
I'll take up the story where you left off.
Fit in.
The puzzle piece fits in here.
Encaixa aqui.
The shelf is tight, but I think I can fit one more book in.
Não se encaixa.
This peg does not fit into this hole.
Encaixar o parágrafo.
I don't know if we can fit the paragraph in the space provided.
Te encaixar.
Dr. Haldon can fit you in this morning at 10.
Se encaixa.
He explained the project to me and how my job fits in.
Se encaixa.
My role as supervisor fits in with my authoritative personality.
Eu tentei me encaixar,
I
mas
tried to fit in, but they were all much younger than I was.
se encaixaram bem.
The kids felt awkward in their new school, but soon they found that they fit in well.
Eu nunca me encaixo.
I never fit in with the popular crowd at school.
Eu simplesmente não me encaixo.
I just don't fit in with this group.
Ele não se
He
encaixava.
didn't fit in with her plans, so she left him.
Point out. Pesquisadores apontaram que peixe contém
Researchers pointed out that fish contain a type of fat that is good for you.
apontaram a ponta.
No one likes him because he always points out everyone's mistakes. As we drove by her old house, she pointed it out to me.
Mostrou.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Ele mostrou.
He pointed out the best beaches on the map.
Todos apontaram o erro.
Everyone pointed the error out.
Ela mostrou.
He pointed out the boy who took her purse.
Ela
He
apontou.
pointed out the oldest buildings in the city.
Ângela apontou.
Angela pointed out some spelling errors in my paper.
A mostrou.
We didn't notice the whale until another passenger on the ship pointed it out.
Look out for. Look out, cuidado,
Look out, there's a car coming.
cuidado.
But when the ice suddenly breaks, look out. Someone shouted, "Look out, he's got a gun!" Look out, you're going to drop that. You don't look out. You could fall on the ice. She looked out for her sister when she started school. The campers looked out for each other on the hike. I'm the oldest, and I always look out for my younger sisters. I have a network of neighbors who look out for each other and support each other.
Tomam conta um dos outros e dão apoio. Prestarem atenção.
Everybody thought I'd win, but I kept telling them to look out for Walter, too.
Preste atenção.
Look out for a small amount of extremely vulgar language in the middle of the movie.
Prestamos atenção em uma van azul.
We were told to look out for a blue van.
Preste atenção no vidro.
Look out for broken glass on the floor.
Hang on. Se segure bem, segure firme.
Just sit still and hang on.
Segurando forte.
The
Sim.
train rattled and we both hung on to the straps.
O trem chacoalhou e nós seguramos forte no cinto.
The train rattled and we both hung on to the straps.
Segurar forte na traseira do caminhão.
Firefighters used to hang on to the back of the fire truck as it raced to a fire.
Persistiu para uma vitória apertada.
The visiting team hung on for a narrow victory.
Vem persistindo por um mês.
This cold has been hanging on for a month.
Continua por
This is the
semanas.
kind of flu that hangs on for weeks.
Show horrível persistiu.
That awful show has hung on for yet another year, although we can't imagine why or how.
Nós devemos esperar e ver o final do jogo.
I think we should hang on and see the end of the game.
Espere um minuto.
Hang on a minute. I need to talk to you.
Esperar um segundo.
Verna, can you hang on just a second? I'll be right back.
Tudo depende do resultado.
Everything hangs on the result of the last race.
Nossos planos dependem.
Our plans hang on their decision about the new park.
Pode depender dos
My whole
resultados.
future could hang on the results of this test.
Você não pode me culpar por isso.
We lost the game, but you can't hang that on me.
Eles tentarão colocar a culpa daquele
They'll
roubo.
try to hang that robbery on the same gang, but I don't think they'll succeed.
O xerife tentou culpar Jeff pelo roubo do banco.
The sheriff tried to hang the bank robbery on Jed.
Give away. Se capturados, eles podem revelar segredos militares vitais. Give away, revelar.
If captured, they might give away vital military secrets.
Não revele o final.
I haven't seen the movie yet, so don't give away the ending.
Não divulgue a
Don't
resposta.
give away the answer.
Revelou o final.
Preview gave away the film's surprise ending.
Não revelou.
Her face gave nothing away.
Revelou, entregou suas
The tone
respostas.
of the teacher's voice gave the answer away.
Eu doei para os vizinhos.
Any plants that were left, I gave away to neighbors.
Estão sendo doadas.
10,000 copies of the software package are being given away.
A loja está dando amostra
The
grátis.
store is giving away free samples of cheese.
Eu doei minhas
I
roupas.
gave my old clothes away to charity. I gave away my coat to Tom.
Bounce back. Dar a volta por cima.
He's sad about Sally leaving, but he'll bounce back.
Dar a volta por cima. Bounce back. Está se recuperando.
The economy is bouncing back from the recession.
Ela se recuperou.
He bounced back from her illness quickly.
Ela se recuperou.
He bounced back quickly after her illness. I bounced back in just a few days after the operation. After an early defeat, she bounced back to win the championship.
Se recuperado.
The economy seems to have bounced back from the recession very quickly.
Se recuperou.
Although the surgery was difficult, the patient bounced back to good health very quickly. She had pneumonia, but she bounced back in less than a week. The ball bounced back from the wall.
Quicou de volta.
A rubber ball always bounces back. I threw the tennis ball at the wall, and it bounced back and hit me on the head.
Fall apart. A cadeira quebrou quando eu sentei nela.
The chair fell apart when I sat on it.
Quebrou, despedaçar,
Cook the tomatoes until they begin to fall apart.
desmoronar,
When the roof wasn't repaired, the building really began to fall apart.
se
I've
despedaçando,
read this book so often it's falling apart.
desmoronar.
Some men would fall apart if their wives left them. The political prisoner fell apart after years in solitary confinement.
Desmoronou,
After his wife died, he fell apart.
em perigo de acabar.
The NATO alliance was in danger of falling apart.
Acabaram porque nós não pudemos.
Our vacation plans fell apart because we couldn't agree on which country to visit.
O casamento dela acabou.
Her marriage fell apart after about 10 years.
Acabou no verão passado.
The deal to sell the company fell apart last summer.
Cut out. Corte 6 círculos do bolo regular.
Using the 5-centimeter cutter, cut out 6 circles from the rectangular cake.
Eu cortei esse artigo.
I cut this article out of a magazine.
Cortaram.
They've cut out several scenes in which I appeared. I've cut out chocolate completely.
Você deveria parar de comer sorvete.
You should cut out eating ice cream and get more exercise.
Nós cortamos a TV.
We cut out cable TV. I've saved a lot of money.
Ela quer cortar carne de sua dieta.
She wants to cut meat out of her diet.
Cortar o Chuck.
You have to cut Chuck out. There are too many better men on the team.
Eu estou cortando o sal da minha dieta.
I'm cutting out salt from my diet.
Eles cortaram, excluíram.
Cut out the free coffee with lunch at the cafeteria.
O carro parou no
The
semáforo.
car cut out at the traffic lights just as they went green.
Pare com esse barulho.
Cut out that noise.
Pare com isso.
Cut it out or you'll have to leave.
Mas eles pararam.
They were acting badly, but they cut it out when the teacher walked into it.
É melhor sair rápido.
We'd better cut out. The security men are on the way.
Eu tenho que sair agora.
Goodbye. I have to cut out now.
É hora de sair.
It's time to cut out. I'm late already.
Carry off. Conquistar esses papéis.
Both actors have the stylish self-confidence needed to carry off these roles.
O mágico superou o truque,
The magician carried off the trick with great skill.
mas a anfitriã teve êxito.
It was a huge party, but the hostess carried it off.
O filme ganhou 4 prêmios.
The film carried off 4 of the top prizes. The prize was $10,000, and I was determined to carry it off.
A ganhá-lo. Ela ganhou.
She carried off the first prize in the competition.
Os sequestradores roubaram a criança.
The kidnappers carried the child off.
Alguém roubou meus livros.
Someone carried off my books. I think someone carried off the lawn chairs last night.
O câncer o levou alguns anos atrás.
Cancer carried him off a couple of years ago.
O novo vírus africano levou uma vida inteira.
The new African virus carried off an entire village. Heart disease finally carried him off. Many pioneers were carried off by fever.
Drop by and drop in. Dá uma passada.
Why don't you drop by for some coffee sometime?
Deu uma passada.
I asked her to drop by whenever she was in the neighborhood. He dropped by the hospital to visit his aunt. She dropped by the office during her vacation to see if she had received any important mail.
Visitando.
Joan loves to have friends drop in. We'd love to drop in, but we haven't had time on this trip. You're welcome to drop in at any time. About 100 guests dropped in to celebrate the publication of his book.
Nós daremos uma passada.
We'll drop in and see how you're doing tomorrow. Can we drop in on our neighbors tonight?
Jot down. Tome nota deste bilhete, por favor.
Jot down this note, please. When did you have the idea to jot down those ideas?
Anotar aquelas ideias. Ele pôde anotar.
He can jot down his thoughts and ideas as they occur.
Anote a informação.
Jot down the information once. You're good to go.
Anote em um papel separado.
After reading the following truths, jot down on a separate sheet mistaken ideas you have held in the past.
Eu anoto no caderno.
I jot down in the notebook.
Por favor, anote.
This is important. Please jot this down.
O secretário anotou a mensagem.
The secretary jotted the message down.
Eu anotei a tarefa.
I jotted down the homework assignment.
Anotará.
You will jot down notes of the meeting.
Jot down. Anotar. Pay off. Valerão a pena quando você fizer a prova.
All those weeks of studying will pay off when you take the exam.
Valeu a pena.
My investment in those stocks has really paid off.
Valeu a pena.
The time I spent in school paid off in later years.
Não valeu a pena.
That gamble did not pay off.
Vai ser paga, quitada.
Only another 6 months and the house will be paid off.
Eu não posso pegar você até quarta.
I can't pay you off until Wednesday when I get my paycheck. I have to use this money to pay off Sarah.
Left pagou os policiais na hora.
Lefty paid off the cops on time.
Tinham sido subornados.
There were suspicions that officials had been paid off.
Já havia pago os policiais.
Max asked Lefty if he had paid the cops off yet.
O par tinha pago a polícia local.
The pair had paid off local police to protect their drug-selling operation.
Ketchup. Alcançam novamente.
We left before them, but they soon caught us up again. The runner caught up to the leader on the last lap of the race.
Alcançou. O carro vermelho alcançou o azul.
The red car caught up with the blue one.
Bill alcançou a Ann.
Bill caught up with Ann, and they walked to the bank together.
Ketchup. Ficar em dia.
He's missed so much school that he's going to find it hard to catch up.
Poder ficar em dia com meu trabalho.
I need a quiet time so I can catch up on my work. I need a quiet time so I can catch up on my work.
Tem que ficar em dia.
He started school late and now has to catch up.
Inteirar das novidades.
Come over tomorrow and we can catch up. I need a little time to catch up on the news.
Nos inteirar.
We all need to catch up on what Tony has been doing.
Atualizar.
I need some time to catch up.
Move on. Ela se mudou para outra empresa.
She moved on to another company where the salary was considerably better.
Mudar para os espaços.
Once you learn to master these techniques the apt way, you can move on to the pro rooms.
Mudar. mudar para outros cursos,
Many students start in general English and then decide to move on to other courses.
antes de partir,
They stayed for only a few days before moving on.
nós saímos como solicitados.
We moved on, as requested.
Era hora de partir.
After a long stay in the Chapada Diamantina, it was time to move on.
Seguir adiante.
Some could get offended. Some could just laugh out and move on.
Seguir
It's
adiante.
been a nightmare, but now I just want to forget about it and move on.
Eu vou prosseguir para uma nova pergunta.
Now I will move on to a new question. That is enough discussion on that point. Let's move on.
Moveram os jovens.
Police were aggressive in the way they moved the young people on.
Por favor, mova essas pessoas
Please move those people on.
para mover a multidão.
They are in the way. The officers worked hard to move the crowd on.
Put out. Apagarem o fogo.
It took firefighters 3 hours to put the blaze out. Please put that cigarette out.
Apague esse cigarro.
He used flour to put the fire out. It would be lovely to stay with you, but I don't want to put you out.
Te causar problemas. Me colocar em problemas por ele.
I don't see why I should put myself out for him.
Lhe causou inconveniência?
Did our early arrival put you out? I hope you didn't put yourself out to get us those tickets.
Colocamos o gato para fora à noite.
We usually put the cat out at night. I put out food for the birds in cold weather. The dog likes to put its head out the window. Don't forget to put out the garbage.
A banda divulgou.
The band put out a statement denying rumors of a split.
A polícia divulgou.
Police have put out a warning about an escaped prisoner.
A organização anunciou.
The organization has put out an excellent report on the treatment of political prisoners around the world.
Você pode anunciar.
Can you put the word out that the meeting has been canceled?
Uma empresa publicou vários títulos.
A company that has put out several new titles this year.
Quando esse livro foi publicado?
When was this book put out?
Nós
We
publicamos.
put out both books last year.
John se comportou rudemente na festa. Chateada.
John behaved rudely at the party, and the hostess was quite put out.
Chateada. Liz ficou bastante irritada com a questão.
Liz was quite put out about the question.
Chateada por
Would
alto.
you be put out if we canceled our plans for dinner tomorrow?
Sempre o irritava.
It always put him out when he was asked to wait while someone answered another call.
Turn around. Melhorar a empresa com o lançamento.
They are hoping to turn the company around with the launch of the new products.
Mudar o curso da economia
The
russa.
£400 million loan will help turn the Russian economy around.
A ação melhorou.
The stock turned around.
Entregá-lo muito rapidamente.
We can produce quality work and turn it around very quickly.
Se você deixar sua roupa,
If you drop off your dry cleaning today, we can turn it around by Monday.
entregá-la.
The bank will turn around the check quickly.
Entregará. Entregar o trabalho.
We hope to be able to turn the job around and deliver the product in a few weeks.
Mude de ideia.
You supported the idea, so don't turn around and condemn it now.
Não mude de ideia.
It was your idea, so don't turn around and say you're too busy.
Pare de distorcer minhas palavras.
Stop turning my words around.
Eles distorcem minhas ideias.
They turned around my ideas so that I didn't even recognize them.
Se você distorcer esse argumento,
If you turn this argument around, you'll see that it's equally valid.
Takeover. Eu assumo como general mês que vem.
I take over as the general manager next month.
Você pode assumir a cozinha?
Can you take over the cooking while I walk the dog?
Takeover, assumir o projeto.
It looks as if I'm going to have to take the project over.
Está assumindo a empresa.
IBM is taking over the smaller company.
Pronto para assumir.
We are ready to hand over power as soon as there is someone ready to take it over.
Ele assumiu a
He took
empresa.
over the failing company with the help of a number of investment bankers.
Ela assumiu.
The new director made changes the minute she took over.
Vai controlar sua vida.
Believe me, your mother will take over your life if you let her.
Eu vou assumir o projeto.
I will take over the project.
O banco foi assumido por um banco.
The bank was taken over by a Hong Kong bank that needed to buy a bank to get into the British market.
Foi contratada pela Espanha.
Gibraltar was taken over by Spain in 1462.
Put back. Você pode colocar o livro de volta quando você...
Can you put the book back when you've finished with it? No, you may not eat another cookie, so put it back. Please put the book back when you finish it. I put back the books I'd taken from the shelf.
Nós adiamos a viagem até junho.
We've put the trip back until June now.
O fogo de abertura.
The fire has put back the opening of the theater by several months. The meeting has been put back until July the 17th.
Atrasaram.
The children put back all the clocks in the house so they could stay up later. We hoped to start painting the house this week, but the bad weather put us back several days. The lack of funds put back the project a few months.
Look down on.
She looks down on anyone who hasn't had a university education.
Ela menospreza.
He looks down on his colleagues because he thinks he's better than they are.
Ele menospreza.
A lot of people look down on us because we're homeless, she says. I feel like they kind of look down on you in a way. People who have gone to a university, they look down on you because you haven't. Her art and theater friends look down on people like the banks.
Vai menosprezar.
You're not going to look down on the players from teams that are not there. Don't look down on a child. I tried not to look down on the locals for building everything out of wood. And yet he does not look down on me. He talks to me.
Look after. Por favor, tome conta.
Please look after my little boy.
Tome conta do meu carro.
Do you want me to look after your car?
Toma conta dos interesses.
We are an organization that looks after the interests of artists. Please look after your little brother. It is clear that Europe needs to look after the interests of the European people. Who's looking after the department while you're away? A neighbor will look after the dogs while we're away.
Tomará conta.
Will you look after my cat while I'm away? I looked after my younger brother and sister while my parents were working. Their auntie looked after them while their mother was in hospital.
Put forward. Sugeridas pelo comitê.
He rejected all the proposals put forward by the committee. I put Henry forward as a possible nominee.
Sugerir plano.
I would like to put forward a plan.
Sugerido como.
Your name was put forward as a possible team leader. They put the meeting forward from 4 to 2:30.
Adiantaram seus relógios.
Don't forget to put your clocks forward tonight.
Adiantar nossos relógios.
The pilot reminded us to put our watches forward by 2 hours.
Adiantar.
We put the surprise party forward by an hour to make sure everyone could arrive on time. Please, don't put the meeting forward. It is important to talk today.
Não adie a reunião.
The meeting has been put forward to Monday.
Turn into. Nosso feriado transformou-se.
Our holiday turned into a nightmare. His first novel was turned into a television film. After work is over, he turns into a fairly nice person. The tale of a prince who is turned into a frog by his wicked stepmother.
O conto de príncipe que é transformado em sapo para sua madrasta perversa.
The tale of a prince who is turned into a frog by his wicked stepmother. The night turned into day. In the story, straw turns into gold.
Palha transforma-se em ouro.
In the story, straw turns into gold.
Transformaram seu talento em dinheiro extra.
The singers turned their talent into extra money.
Transformaram a água no lago em gelo.
The freezing temperatures had turned the water in the lake into ice. The designer turned a run-down house into a showplace. We turned the spare room into a nursery.
Sort out. A Júlia queria planejar o jantar.
Julia intended to go home early in order to sort out the dinner.
Planejar, sort out.
Danny's organizing the food and the music's already sorted out.
Planejada.
Can you sort out the music for the party?
Poderia ser resolvida.
This matter could be sorted out if they would just sit down and talk.
Resolver isso.
I can't sort this out without some more time.
Vamos resolver essa bagunça.
Let's sort out this mess and settle it once and for all.
Preciso me livrar dessa bagunça.
I need to sort out the mess on my desk. I've managed to sort the newspapers out.
Se livrar da bagunça.
So the administration sweeps problems under a rug in the hopes that they can sort out the mess later. Let's sort these cards out. I sorted out the blue socks and washed them separately. Would you please sort out your socks?
Você poderia colocar suas meias em ordem? Setup.
The group plans to set up an import business.
Começar.
Rebels have set up an independent state within the country.
Instalaram.
We set up a fund to buy food for the needy. The business owners set a bank up in the small town. I'll set up a meeting for Thursday.
Planejei a reunião.
The program will set up a regional library system. They set the meeting up for 9 a.m. tomorrow. We have a little area set up for serving food.
Planejada para servir comida.
The police caught the gang trying to set up a kidnapping. They didn't commit the crime, but they did set it up.
Eles não planejaram o crime, mas eles o planejaram.
They didn't commit the crime, but they did set it up. Police have set up a mobile incident unit outside the shop. My parents bought me a dollhouse, but I had to set it up myself. It took nearly an hour to set up the tent.
Armado.
The kids are setting up the volleyball net.
Causou uma reação em
Their
cadeia.
negligence set up a chain reaction that resulted in extensive damage. The new taxes set up howls of protest.
Os novos impostos causaram uivos de protestos.
The new taxes set up howls of protest.
Causou bom jogo.
The team's defense set up a good play.
Plano para poder dar a ele como líder do partido.
A plan to set him up as party leader.
Deram ao antigo secretário poder.
The board members set up the former secretary as the company's new president. The leaders of the coup set the general up as a dictator.
Arrumar o Ryan para minha prima.
I think we should set Ryan up with my cousin. A friend set me up with his brother.
Amigo me arrumou para seu irmão.
A friend set me up with his brother. The dating service set us up.
Nos arrumou.
She claims she's innocent and someone set her up.
Armou para ela. Set her up.
She claims she's innocent and someone set her up.
Armado para mim.
I had nothing to do with the robbery. I was just standing there. Somebody must have set me up. John isn't the one who started the fight. Somebody set up the poor guy.
Ele se vende como tipo de especialista financeiro.
He sets himself up as some kind of financial expert. She set herself up as an authority on Latin, but she really doesn't know that much.
Ele se pinta como uma autoridade no latim, mas ela realmente não sabe muito.
She set herself up as an authority on Latin, but she really doesn't know that much. The newspapers set him up as a star athlete, but he had only played 3 professional games.
Take off.
Please take off your shoes.
Tire seus sapatos.
I'd better take my shoes off. Please take your coat off and stay a while.
Decolar.
The plane should take off on time.
Decolamos.
When do we take off?
Decolou.
The eagle took off and headed toward the mountains.
Decolou.
Her business has really taken off. That actor's career has really taken off.
Decolou.
Sales took off around the holidays. I'm taking off 3 days during May. I'm taking Monday off to go to London. We haven't taken any time off since last summer.
Ela apenas saiu.
As soon as she saw George arrive, she just took off.
Saíram.
As soon as I told them you were coming, they took off.
Eu tenho que sair.
I've got to take off. I'm late.
Beth consegue imitar Judy Garland.
Beth can take off Judy Garland brilliantly.
Imitar, taking off.
He had a way of taking off the governor that made us howl with laughter. I can't take off Michael Jackson. It's too difficult.
Set off. Nós partiremos cedo amanhã de manhã. Partiremos.
We set off early the next morning.
Partimos.
We set off for Springfield 3 hours late.
Partir.
In the afternoon, we could set off.
Quando você embarca para a Europa,
When do you set off for Europe?
o que disparou o alarme?
Jeff pushed open the front door, which set off the alarm.
O ácido causou uma reação química.
The acid set off a chemical reaction.
Causaram.
Rumors set off a wave of selling on the stock exchange. He fears that the election could set off mass protests.
Não detonou a explosão deliberadamente.
The investigation determined that he probably did not set off the blast deliberately.
Detonou-a com o celular.
Apparently, the bomb was placed in a locker and someone set it off with a cell phone.
Alguém estava detonando fogos de artifício para a rua.
Somebody was setting off fireworks down the street.
Era realçado por um chapéu.
Her plain blue dress was set off by a feather-trimmed hat.
Realçado. Realça seus olhos.
You look terrific with those black shoes, and the bright blue blouse sets off your eyes.
Aquela cor realça o cabelo louro dela.
That color sets off her blonde hair.
Me fez ficar bravo.
The clerk's indifference finally set me off.
Deixaram bravos.
The constant delays set off even the most patient passengers. My sister was an unpredictable young woman, and I never knew what would set her off.
Keep up.
Keep up the good work.
Continue com um bom trabalho.
We're on a winning streak. Hopefully we can keep it up.
Manter isso. Isso. Manter a pressão.
The trade unions continued to keep up the pressure for higher wages.
Consegui manter isso.
She tried to appear cheerful, but couldn't keep it up.
Tente acompanhar.
Try to keep up.
Apressar para acompanhá-la.
He had to hurry to keep up with her.
Te acompanhando.
You're running so fast that I cannot keep up with you.
Acompanhar seus gastos.
I don't make enough money to keep up with your spending. It's late. I'd better not keep you up any longer. My neighbors kept me up till after 4 a.m. with their loud music last night. Try to keep him up until I can get his bed made. Keep her up for a few minutes longer.
Mantenha-la acordada. Keep her up.
Keep her up for a few minutes longer.
Go over.
Can you please go over it again, more slowly?
Go over. Revisar novamente.
Could you go over this report and correct any mistakes?
Revisar.
The teacher went over the lesson with the class. I went over the papers and found nothing wrong. Sue's going to help me go over my lines for the play. Let's go over these lines one more time. Will you go over these lines with me?
Essas falas comigo?
We went over to Cedar Point and spent the day having fun. Let's go over to the store and buy a snack. My friend was feeling lonely, so I went over and cheered him up.
Eu animei.
The party went over really well. The play really went over with the audience.
Foi muito bem recebida pelo público.
I hope the play goes over.
Seja bem recebida.
He'd gone over the car with a cloth, wiping fingerprints from the steering wheel and the door handles.
Ele tinha limpado o carro rapidamente com um pano.
He'd gone over the car with a cloth, wiping fingerprints from the steering wheel and the door handles.
Limpei rapidamente.
The table still looks dusty, so I went over it with a damp cloth. I went over the living room with the vacuum cleaner before they arrived.
Dorothy vestiu seu casaco e saiu.
Dorothy put on her coat and went out. Tim had forgotten to put his watch on. She put on a pretty dress to wear to the party.
Aplicado maquiagem.
Melanie was putting on her makeup in front of the mirror. I put sunscreen on before we went out. Don't put on so much moisturizer.
Hidratante, moisturizer.
Can you put the light on, please?
Ligar a luz.
Shall I put the kettle on for a cup of tea? I put the heat on, but the car is still cold. Can you put on that great CD you played yesterday?
Produzindo.
We're putting on a concert to raise money for cancer charities.
Organizar uma peça.
The second graders want to put on a play.
Organizando.
I hear they're putting on Shakespeare this summer.
Pare de fingir.
Stop putting on that funny voice. Anne wasn't really angry. She was just putting on. I can't believe she was just putting on. She really looked mad.
Fingindo. Ela está fingindo.
He's not really asleep. He's putting it on.
Eu simulei, fingi um sorriso em meu rosto e cumprimentei o cliente.
I put a smile on my face and greeted the customer.
Você está me enganando.
I don't believe you. You're putting me on.
Eu não estou te enganando.
I'm not putting you on.
Você está me enganando, não está?
You're putting me on, aren't you?
Ela engordou muito.
She put a lot of weight on after the children were born. I've put on 2 kilograms in the last month. He's put on a lot of weight since he gave up smoking.
Eu apostei 5 libras no...
I put 5 pounds on the Whitkirk Wanderer to win the Grand National. I went to the track and put $50 on a horse. You are never going to put on horses again.
Apostar em cavalos. Mas vou passar para o Joe.
Wait a minute, Mum. I'll put Joe on.
Eu vou passar para ele.
Is John there, please? I'll put him on.
Você pode passar o telefone para sua mãe?
Will you put your mother on the phone?
Me foi prescrita uma dieta.
I was put on a low-fat diet. The doctor put him on a course of antibiotics.
Eu prescrevi para meu cachorro uma dieta.
I put my dog on a diet because he was getting fat.
Put away.
When you are finished with the hammer, please put it away.
Guarde no lugar.
He put the notebook away and stood up. He ought to be put away for a very long time.
Ser detido por muito tempo. Detido. O juiz o prendeu.
The judge put him away for 10 years for robbery. You have to put away the people who are so crazy that they are a danger to the rest of us. My uncle became irrational, and they put him away.
Prenderam.
Are you going to put this last piece of cake away?
Você vai comer? Você comeu aquela pizza inteira?
Did you put away that whole pizza?
Ele comeu uma vasta quantidade de
He
bolo.
put away vast quantities of cake.
Tente economizar um pouco todo
Try
mês.
and put away a little each month.
Todo ano eu economizo.
Every year, I put away some money for a new car.
Você tem que economizar.
You have to put away a few dollars each week. The dog was so badly injured that the veterinarian had to put it away.
Teve que sacrificá-lo. O gangster ameaçou me matar.
The gangster threatened to put me away if I told the police.
Eles mataram testemunhas no passado.
They've put away witnesses in the past.
Tentam esquecer seus medos.
Nervous residents tried to put away their fears.
Esqueça todos aqueles.
Put away all those negative thoughts.
Descarte aquelas emoções infantis.
Put away those childish notions.
Look up. Pesquisar.
When I returned to the temple, I went to the library to look up these Romanian intellectuals. I didn't know the correct spelling, so I had to look it up in the dictionary.
Consultar no dicionário.
I didn't know what loquacious meant, and had to look it up in the dictionary. If I can't read it all, I'll look up the words. The economy is looking up.
Melhorando.
Finally, things are looking up for me. My prospects for a job are looking up.
Melhorando.
Conditions are looking up.
Melhorando. Eu visitei. Quando eu voltei,
I looked him up when I went back to Cambridge.
me visite da próxima vez.
Look me up next time you come to Sydney. Ted came into town and looked up his favorite pizza place.
Break into.
Conrad asked again, hoping his dad might break into a laugh.
Começar a rir.
He broke into a run when he saw the police.
Ele começou a correr.
Without warning, she broke into tears. She's trying to break into acting.
Começar a atuar.
Gibson worked as a waiter while trying to break into theater.
Começar no teatro.
It's always been his ambition to break into broadcasting.
Começar na televisão. Começar no jornalismo.
The young writer broke into journalism right after college.
Alguém invadiu nossa casa.
Someone broke into our house while we were gone and stole our TV. The alarm went off as soon as they tried to break into the house. What they also love to do is break into your Instagram account.
Invadir sua conta no Instagram. Nós tivemos que gastar nossa poupança para pagar a fiança.
We had to break into our savings to pay the fine. I had to break into my savings to pay off the bills. Don't break into all your money.
A voz do Christopher interrompeu os pensamentos dela.
Christopher's voice broke into her thoughts.
Interromper seu cochilo.
I'm sorry that I have to break into your nap, but it's important that I speak to you now. I couldn't help but break into your conversation.
Eu não pude evitar interromper sua conversa.
I couldn't help but break into your conversation.
Outro. Se eu não sobreviver, eu morri lutando.
If I don't pull through, I died fighting the good fight, and I'm very proud.
Eu te ajudarei a sobreviver.
I will help you pull through your kid's next sick day.
Sobreviver-se.
They said the operation had been successful, and they expected his wife to pull through.
Sobreviver.
Don't worry, your dad's going to pull through.
Eu vou sobreviver a isso.
I'm going to be all right. I'm going to pull through this.
Sobreviveu no final.
At one stage, it looked as if she was going to die, but she pulled through in the end.
Sobreviveria.
After her terrible accident, we weren't sure if she would pull through, but she did.
Sobreviverão apesar do terremoto.
Somehow, the people of Haiti will pull through in spite of the catastrophic earthquake.
Eu poderia ajudar a mim mesmo?
I could pull through myself with the provisions at hand, but I cannot leave him.
Nós ajudamos ela com sua doença.
With the help of the doctor, we pulled her through her illness.
Nós ajudamos.
With lots of encouragement, we pulled her through. He said the support of his fans had pulled him through.
Ajudou. Todo reentrou. Giving. Ter entregue a semana passada.
She came to the class with a piece of work she should have given in last week. The projects have to be given in 3 weeks before we break up for the end of the term. Have you given that essay in yet? She gave in her report.
Eu desisto.
I give in. It's just too difficult. The champion refused to give in and went on to win the set. You'll never guess the answer. Do you give in?
Você desiste?
They gave in when the police surrounded the building. I couldn't finish the crossword puzzle and had to give in and look at the answers.
Desisti. Nós cedemos.
We have given in too easily to pressure from the WTO.
Run away.
I wish I could run away.
Fugir.
It is a reality, and no one can run away from it.
Fugir.
A man from Tennessee asked me to run away with him years ago. When I was 13, I ran away from home. Cassie ran away to marry Duke. She ran away to avoid a forced marriage. She didn't call police. She didn't run away and try to get help. Why didn't you just run away?
Fugiu.
He ran away from his attackers.
Fugindo.
You can't keep running away from the problem.
Put up with.
They put up with a lot.
Eles toleram muita coisa.
Maybe no one put up with more frustrations.
Tolere.
You'll just have to put up with me, Sarah Booth. You're powerless to control me. How has Jan put up with him for so long?
A tolerou por tanto tempo.
I will not put up with your bad behavior any longer. I wouldn't put up with that kind of behavior for 5 seconds.
Nós não iremos tolerar.
We're not gonna put up with this bullshit.
Podia te tolerar.
You're just jealous because no woman could put up with you.
Ele não pode tolerar ter cães.
He couldn't put up with having dogs constantly lodged in his flat and even sleeping on his bed.
Você é aquele que teve que tolerar.
You're the one who had to put up with him.
Pass out.
People everywhere were passing out from the heat.
Estavam desmaiando.
I took one look at the bloody cut on my arm and passed out.
Desmaiei.
When he got the news, he passed out. The bar owner had to throw out patrons who passed out after drinking.
Desmaiaram depois de beber.
Oh look, Tom has passed out.
Tom desmaiou.
Pass out these papers to everyone. The hall was silent as the examination papers were passed out.
Foram distribuídas.
The priest is passing out the communion wafers.
Distribuindo.
Please pass these out to everyone.
Distribua.
The protesters passed out leaflets to the growing crowd.
Distribuíram folhetos. Move out. Sair de casa.
Although I got on well with my parents, I couldn't wait to move out. The house has been sold, and we're moving out.
Moving out.
We moved out because we were unhappy.
Unhappy.
We didn't like the neighborhood, so we moved out of it.
Nós mudamos dela.
He moved out when he was only 18. She bought a new house up the street, and she's moving out of her apartment this weekend.
Se retirar.
The crowd started to move out of the area about midnight.
Se retirando.
They had moved out by 1 o'clock.
Retira essas
Move those
pessoas.
people out of here. They are crowding up the room. Please move all that stuff out. The troops will move out at dawn.
Moving. Nós vamos nos mudar.
We're moving in next week. I found a new flat, and I'm moving in next week. The house was empty for ages, but some new tenants moved in a few weeks ago. When did the new family move in?
I'll move in with Lila while you and I make the arrangements for the divorce.
The troops moved in while the enemy was sleeping. The crowd moved in on the frightened guard.
A multidão avançou no guarda assustado.
They moved in slowly.
Eles avançaram lentamente.
Larger organisms move in to feed on the bacteria.
Organismos maiores avançam para alimentar a bactéria.
Larger organisms move in to feed on the bacteria.
Give up. Eu desisto.
I can't think of the answer. I give up. I give up. You're far better than me at this game. You'll never guess the answer. Do you give up? I had to give up halfway through the race. I have given up trying to help them. I gave up trying to get them to believe me. The suspects gave themselves up.
Se renderam.
The escaped convict gave himself up.
Se rendeu. Eu deixei de usar.
I gave up taking sugar in tea and coffee to lose weight.
Abandonar o chocolate.
It'll be hard, but I'm going to try giving up chocolate for Lent.
Deixei de
I
fumar.
gave up smoking 2 years ago.
Deixar de fumar.
His wife finally persuaded him to give up smoking.
Abandonar seu emprego.
Giving up his job was the last thing we expected him to do.
Abandonar sua agenda de
I think
negociações.
that the European Union should not give up its negotiating agenda.
Eu dediquei todo o meu tempo livre ao projeto.
I gave up all my free time to the project.
Dedicar.
To give up one's life to music.
Eles dedicaram suas vidas ao país.
They gave up their lives to the country.
Hang around. Perambulam pelo ponto de ônibus.
It's annoying when youths hang around the bus stop intimidating customers.
Perambulam.
Don't just hang around, get busy with something. The younger campers loved to hang around the older ones. They hang around the station most of the day.
Esperar aqui por um tempo.
It's comfortable here. I think I'll hang around here for a while.
Passeio no
A
shopping.
lot of teenagers hang around at the mall.
Andar aqui.
I don't like to hang around here after dark.
Estar rodeando no meu escritório.
Why are you hanging around my office?
Rodeou
He had stupidly hung around just to see what the cops were doing and ended up being arrested.
Eu fiquei do lado de fora.
I hung around outside waiting for the others.
Bring around. Get over. Pode levar semanas para superar uma doença como aquela. Superar.
It can take weeks to get over an illness like that.
Get over.
I hope you get over your flu really quickly.
Supere sua gripe. Tinha superado o vírus.
By spring, he had got over the virus which troubled him for much of the winter.
Para superar a gripe.
It took me ages to get over the flu.
Superar o Jake depois que terminamos.
It took me months to get over Jake after we broke up.
Ele vai superá-la assim que...
You will get over her once he starts going out again.
Mas ele superará.
Don's pretty upset, but he'll get over it.
Resolver os problemas com o sistema do computador.
It took us a long time to get over the problems with the computer system. There are many hurdles still to get over before the new restaurant can open.
Resolver antes do Vamos resolver esse trabalho rapidamente.
Let's get this job over quickly.
Não podemos cruzar o rio,
We couldn't get over the river because of the floods.
cruzar as dunas de areia.
I managed to get over the sand dunes and moved on towards the shoreline.
Cruzar a grande pedra no caminho.
I couldn't get over the huge rock in the path, so I went around it.
E me pediu para chegar o mais cedo possível.
He said he needed help and asked me to get over as soon as I could.
Eu tenho que ir até a casa da Molly.
I have to get over to Molly's place and pick up some papers.
Eu vou o mais cedo que eu puder.
Go ahead and start without me. I'll get over as soon as I can.
Ela teve dificuldade em transmitir a mensagem,
He had difficulty getting the message over.
passar sua
He
mensagem,
makes jokes to help get his message over.
passar sua mensagem para o público.
He didn't manage to get over his message to the audience.
Ele não consegue. Eu apenas não consigo acreditar quão bem nós jogamos.
I just can't get over how well we played.
Eu não consigo acreditar.
I couldn't get over how much weight he had put on.
Eu não consigo aceitar o fato de que ela ainda está morando naquele apartamento horrível.
I can't get over the fact that he's still living in that awful apartment.
Feel for